Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this is going to be a brief little review of Marvel's Superior Spider-Man, issues 7 and 8, respectively. Written by Dan the Man Slott, with art primarily by Humberto Ramos, Victor Olazaba, Edgar Delgado, and lettering by Chris Iliopoulos. Otto Octavius, formerly the supervillain Dr. Octopus, nicknamed Doc Ock, has been inhabiting the body of Peter Parker and subsequently web-slinging as the Superior Spider-Man for some time now, and his ruthless carrying out of justice, stepping confidently over lines Peter never did, taking a life and beating foes within an inch of their lives, hasn't gone unnoticed. People closest to the former Peter Parker, who now only exists as a disembodied essence of sorts, whether that be his friends or fellow Avengers, are growing concerned, and last we saw, as per the previous issue, Captain America and his team had decided to call Spidey in, and so they have in this two-part story. But not before we're introduced to a vigilante of sorts in the form of Dr. Elias Wortham, also known as the costumed Cardiac. Utilizing a reopened medical facility that was once formerly a supervillain's front for dastardly deeds, deep within its hidden bowels does Wortham conduct his medical practices on the unhealthy and infirm, using radical therapies and equipment, going beyond what would legally be approved for the lack of capability to insure or cover costs. Among his patients is a young girl suffering from brain damage, and he knows in order to save her life, there's only one device that he'll have to procure, as he puts it, in order to do what needs to be done for her. This leads to a strenuous face-off between he and Ock's Spidey taking place within the Boneyard, the nickname for the storage facility that houses myriad supervillains' equipment and wares confiscated post whatever crimes they were caught using them in. Their battle is not one that goes down so easily as Ock figures it will, largely because Peter's essence is starting to show signs of retaining some control of his former temple. He's successfully begun manipulating his extremities, and noted that on a few occasions he's been able to stymie Ock with surprise outbursts that Ock now seems to be able to hear, though the former villain doesn't at all at first comprehend where such sudden vocalizations are coming from. Cardiac manages to steal away with what he was after as a result of this, a neurolytic scanning device, which leaves Ock shaking off his wounds and walking into several more when he is then called into an intervention of sorts hosted by his fellow Avengers. This brings issue 7 to a close. Adding insult to injury as Ock's superior Spidey attempts to fend off the strengths of Cap, Wolverine, Thor, Spider-Woman, and Black Widow going into issue number 8, he finds himself quickly and very understandably at a loss, and is soon subjected to every applicable test of his mind and body that they can come up with. However, the Avengers, I have to admit, come up a little short on this one, only satisfying for themselves that Spider-Man is neither a Skrull nor being manipulated by an outside influence. In fact, Widow seems to suspect it's something akin to survivor's guilt that has pushed him over the edge in the wake of the death of Silver Sable. And she even boldly drops the ball, missing a sketch Peter's essence just barely manages to doodle, rather decently I thought, on a notepad depicting what is meant to be an octopus with an arrow leading away from it and pointing toward the very image of Spider-Man's mask. However, she seems to mistake the octopus for a poorly sketched spider and shrugs it off. If Ock himself is somewhat surprised by his walking out scot-free, and Peter is left incredulous and ready to smack his head against the wall, you can imagine that, as a reader, it comes as something of a bewildering event as well. You wouldn't immediately think of Earth's mightiest to come up so short on the uptake, so to speak. What's more, Ock departs with a gift of all of their scans and information they took while looking him over. It seems as hearing Peter's occasional outbursts and feeling his influence have made him begun to suspect as much, and he needs to confirm it. Using a tracker he placed on him, he tracks Cardiac back to his hidden basement complex, where lives are being saved, and is seemingly ready to throw down any and all who get in his way, regardless of their infirmity, until, that is, he spots the helmet he's after, the neurolytic scanner Cardiac stole earlier, being worn by the little girl with the afflicted mind. Here we find, much to Ock's, Peter's, and even our surprise, that it was a former malevolent supervillain he planned carried out by Otto that put the little girl in the sad state she's in. Because there's only so far Wortham and his people can go with the device, and Ox being more than adequately familiar with it, being it's a product of his own invention, he deems himself capable of saving the girl's life, and he does. Wortham comes to consider this Spidey an ally, and Ock considers what Wortham's doing to be something to which he greatly approves. The new deal between them sees Ock taking home, albeit temporarily, his neurolytic scanner, which we're told he plans to use to eradicate what's left of Peter's mind, his very essence, in answer to Peter's telling him, though not expecting to be heard, that in spite of the good he's done that day, Peter will not stop at anything to get his body back, and Otto will have none of it. And as issue 8 comes to a close, we're also left with the fledgling seed of Parker's friend Carly Cooper, discussing over the phone her convoluted but potentially dead-on theory as to just who it is wearing the guise of Spider-Man. I have to say, issues number 7 and 8 of Superior Spider-Man do not disappoint on nearly all aspects encountered within them, from the way Dan Slott keeps the pace steadily flowing to the pitch-perfect action scenes, to the little touches he fits in to play on the emotions of the reader, like the little girl's pink snuggly penguin plush doll that she keeps clamped to her chest, and which she later gifts to Ox Spidey after he saves her life, as well as a nod to Raiders of the Lost Ark made by Cardiac, which brought a smile to my face. I think for me, the only thing to give me pause, and in truth it's the first speed bump I've personally encountered since Superior Spider-Man began, was the stunning lack of the Avengers picking up that there was anything to be picked up with the wall crawler. How he managed to get out of there with no more said about it was quite the surprise, and I can only assume that it's the importance of the teams not playing a heavy part in the overall story, but needing to at least make an appearance, because that's probably something they would do, is likely the reason for this. Still, with that said, the flow of these two books is steady as ever, and quite the enjoyable read. As for the art, it is, as I've said in previous Superior reviews, a bit cartoonish, but this doesn't fail in any regard in getting the momentum or, in fact, the pitching of the story perfect at any time. And I love the emphasis utilized through the coloring in certain sequences, like the sickly and unnerving greens of Ock's personal workstation at Horizon Labs, to play on the disheartening revelation that he's on to Pete's being with him and decided to excise that part of his mind, to the bright blues and off-whites that are customary in the medical sense when perusing Wortham's facilities, as well as the spectacular nighttime city shots and the explosive and electric waves of Cardiac's energy staff. The pages from cover to cover are dripping with awesome. And so, as a whole, I'll be rating Superior Spider-Man issues 7 and 8 a 4.5 out of 5. Great stuff indeed. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you're reading Superior, what you think of it if you are, and if not, whether you plan to pick it up, and other Spidey stuff that you might dig. And otherwise, that'll be it for me on this. I hope you're all doing well. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you later. Peace.